Children of single parents. Who was the worst person your parent has dated? I can think of two. First of all, my biological father. They got back together for a few weeks. He was a dick. I'd recently got my first pet, a ginger kitten, but I was having previously unknown allergy issues with it. Things were stabilizing for me though, and I was getting used to it when one day my new cat disappeared. My dad admitted he let it out the door because he knew I'd been struggling. I spent weeks searching, but never found it. The second was my stepdad. He was actually a really good guy and head over heels in love with my mom. I actually miss him a lot. The reason he was one of the worst? Well, my mom died when I was 17 and overnight my stepdad changed. Within a month he was in a relationship with another family member and suddenly he was violent and abusive. Left me with no food or money, attacked me for accidentally breaking an ornament of his, and ultimately forced me to run away from home. I was on couch hopping for 9 months and never spoke to him again. Well, as far as my mom's concerned, my dad is a clear winner. Bastard thought feeding a baby coke and beer till she passed out was parenting. Then he thought that beating the fuck out of anyone who questioned him and locking his daughter in the crawl space till she stopped crying was healthy parenting. Managed to cut him out of my life at 16. At 19 he tried to shoot the cops that came to answer the domestic violence call. He missed, but the cops firing back riddled his 86-year-old neighbor with bullets. He's up for parole in 4 years. None of his girlfriends liked me, so they didn't give a shit. Some of them enjoyed it. Mom's not perfect either, but I'm gonna take emotional neglect over Biden's nonsense any day. He was called Greg. He was an abusive wanker. He used to lock me and my brothers out in the rain while my mum was at work. Had no way of contacting her before kids had phones. He did it in all weathers. He broke my mum's arm in front of me and my brothers. He grabbed my face so hard his nail left a cut in my cheek. My mum and my 2 aunties got their own back though. My mum stole his change jar. His change jar had notes in. There were number 1 PS or 2 PS. Only silver plus. One auntie smashed every single thing he had. Car windows, house windows, TVs, everything. She also promised to beat him whenever she sees him. She's kept that promise and has hit him 7 times so far on nights out. My other auntie kept reporting him to his boss for things he hadn't done, but they couldn't disprove, like being horrible, swearing at her. He was fired. He was a real piece of shit, and the actions of my family may have been drastic, if not illegal, but he most definitely deserved this. My mom dated an alcoholic. He beat her right in front of me and my brother. One time she was taking a shower, and he grabbed her by the hair and threw her outside when she was wet and naked. Everyone could see, and it was humiliating to watch. I couldn't do anything. He was bigger and stronger than my brother and I. She stayed with this abusive asshole for like 4 years. I became traumatized, and I hate alcohol. Alcohol scares me so much, but lately I've been trying to get over it. Alcohol shouldn't scare me forever. I've been letting my BF drink, and I freaked out a couple times, but the past couple days I've been getting more comfortable around him drinking. It's not fair to freak out when he drinks just because of bad experience. He's not the same guy. He won't hurt me. My mom dated this one guy for 5+ years. She was already a bad parent, but with him, she acted like we didn't exist. They would argue and have sex till like 1 AM most nights, so I would go to school very tired. He didn't even acknowledge us, and she didn't care. The only time he did, he would snitch on me for small things. The few times she was home they had her door locked, and sometimes I would try to talk to her because I was being bullied, and she didn't find out till years later, and at that time I had been coping with never seeing my dad and the door was locked, so I'd just go off and cry. I confronted her about it once, and she said he was the one who locked the door, but like, still bitch, I'm your kid. He was also cheating on her, and he pretty much beat her one day, and she made me call the police. They broke up again after that. That all happened like 2 years ago. This was all while I was like a preteen and up, and I was actually trying to bond with my mom. I still don't really have a connection with her because of him, and don't love her. He still comes over to her house and spends the night. Also, he used to live off of her, has never had a real job. Everyone sees him as a saint, and I still get questioned as of to why I don't like him. Everyone was mad at me when I was 14 because he came over to my mom's house months after he beat her and he said hi to me and I said my mom was pissed. I now tell her to her face she's bad at picking men and that she's never going to be happy if she keeps picking homeless abusive men. She's still in love with him according to her. Currently happening, my mom is dating a drug addicted, jobless loser who lost custody of his daughter years back. He's been to prison twice and doesn't ever care to clean himself up. He's abused her, hit her, stolen from her, and even got her pregnant, and is now why I have a 11-month-old half-sister. He steals her bank cards all the time and takes her car out at night to go and take stuff off the side of the road to buy a bunch of junk. Our whole house, side yard, and backyard look like a junkyard of all of the stuff he's stolen, gathered from the road, or bought with her money. I'm not exaggerating either, it's very bad. They've been together for over 2 years, and it makes me angry and sad at the same time to know my mom is with him. She's smart, has a 8 to 6 job, and went to college for 4 years, just to end up barely being able to afford the water and electric bills. I wish she would kick him out. He deserves to be arrested for doing heroin and coke in our backyard with his friends he brings over without notice. Edit. Currently his mom passed away last week and he's going to be gaining $100k from her life insurance policy. I dig how that works. I'm 15. I guarantee not a dime of it will be spent on helping pay for bills, getting a job, or cleaning up the mess he's made my and my mom's life. He lost his job 2 weeks after they got married and never found another one, so he laid around the house watching TV. The most common words he said to me were to go away. The living room was his space, and he didn't want me in it when he was watching baseball, which was most of the time. Sometimes when my mom was gone, he'd scream at me, top of his lungs. I was 8. He didn't clean, and he cooked for me twice, burnt hot dogs, and he acted like he was doing me a huge favor serving me shitty pan-burnt hot dogs. His son visited every other weekend, and I had to share a bedroom with him, even though I begged them to put me somewhere else. He would wait for me to fall asleep and try to suffocate me with bed sheets, pillows, or his hands. My 5th grade teacher. My mom also worked at the school so all the kids knew her. It was awkward. My best friend's dad, when he was separating from his wife. I don't know how much dating happened, but there was definitely something going on between them. Also some creepy dude she met online who would only sleep with all the lights on and once threatened me when he thought I told my mom what her birthday gift was. Eventually she had to call the police on him when he wouldn't stop trying to get into our house. Those were the worst, but every single one of them was bad in some way. I think all the same dudes knew to stay away from my mom. Lol. Loretta. My dad is an alcoholic and all around crappy person, so the fact that he found someone at all was amazing. I adored her at first, then the crazy started to come out. She's French and had 2 preteen boys at the time. He stopped giving my mom money for us because he had to support her and her kids and complained about it constantly as if he didn't have a choice, and he hated those boys. She did a lot of shady shit to my dad which didn't bug me, but then she was drunk one night and started texting my mom saying that she needs to straighten out my dad because he's abusive and horrible. Not wrong. My mom responded with something like he's not my responsibility, but you should seek proper help if it's that bad, to which Loretta lost her shit, calling my mom a cunt and to stay away from her man. My mom went through years of crazy with my dad, and they were finally at a place where they could be friends/family without drama, and this crazy asshole comes in stirring shit. She was horrid. The woman he's with now is significantly better. They both drink together, but don't seem to be hateful drunks. My mom only had 2 boyfriends. Both were wonderful, especially the guy who lived with us. I miss him and hope he's doing well. My mom hooked up with a US Navy guy while his ship was in port. Then the ship left without him. We abandoned our lives while the 3 of us lived in a car for 6 months trying to avoid the shore patrol, who we found out were not even looking for us when we were all arrested for living in a Kmart parking lot. He went to the brig, and I didn't have any supervision for another 6 months as my mum spent all her time sitting outside his cell. One morning about a year after the whole thing started, she went in to see him and was told to wait because his wife and 5 kids were already visiting. This was news to her. He had insisted that he was single. She left in tears, and when she returned later that day he was gone, and she never heard anything from him again. My mum used to date a guy who was an alcoholic when I was 14, which effectively made her drink more. He also gave me a very creepy vibe. He used to compliment me and my sister on our looks, but not in a "you look nice today" way. It was weirder than that. He would touch my feet or legs if I was sitting on the sofa also. He also caressed my face one time. One night I also overheard him taking advantage of my mum when she was drunk. Kept hearing her tell him no, that wasn't a fun night. I told my mum about how he creeped me out, but she brushed it off. I've met around 20 guys that she's dated over the years. Most of them sucked, but he was the worst. Thankfully she isn't with him anymore.